All right, thrilled to be joined now by my good friend. I don't know, maybe he's my good friend. I consider him a good friend. Maybe that's a one-way street. Clay Snowden of Just Baseball, and probably a yearly tradition at this point because Clay is probably the only person in the entire universe that not only just watches both the Detroit Tigers and the Cincinnati Reds, but he covers them for Just Baseball. So obviously, we had to bring Clay on today. Clay, my friend, how you doing?
I consider you a good friend too, Nick. It's not just a one-way street, but I'm doing great, man. The Tigers are playing well. They're fun to watch. And the Reds are getting better, man. They're getting better. I'm feeling it. I was down in the dumps for a while about the Reds. My spirits are starting to increase as the temperatures do as well.
Well, let's start with the Reds because I don't know if the vibes have been lower. I don't know. It's so easy to get into these like, is this the lowest vibes ever? But after that Brewers series loss and they got blown out in the final game, the vibes were near as low as I can honestly ever remember. And I'm talking including like 2022. The vibes were low, but then the Reds run off 5 wins in a row against two good teams and or at least, competitive teams, and they've at least given themselves a chance. What do you think about the Reds' recent surge?
It's weird, and I think that it's what's going to happen all year. This often happens with kind of a team that's probably around a 500 team, right? They play about 500 baseball, and sometimes you'll get these 4 or 5, 6 game stretches that make you feel great, and then something else will happen, and you're kind of right back down in the dumps. And that's probably why it's so frustrating, is because of the ups and downs. But overall, I think that this particular team is frustrating because of how good the pitching has been, and you would imagine, in theory, coming into the year, like, the offense would be pretty good. Like, all these young players are taking a step forward, and the pitching's been great. The offense hasn't seen these young players that we've been waiting so long for to really take that leap forward. They haven't been able to. So it's been a frustrating year.
Do you see any similarities? We'll talk a little bit more about the Tigers in general here in a second. But the Tigers last year, I would imagine they felt less competitive, less of a team that had any sort of chance to make it the playoffs than the Reds feel right now. Is there any lessons or any, I guess, words of wisdom from someone who watched the Tigers in terms of being patient with this Reds team?
Yeah, and those who don't fully understand what I do is I watch, 90% of Reds games and Tigers games every night, 2 screens, write about them all, run 2 Twitter accounts, 1 for each. So I was doing this for the past 2 seasons as well with the Tigers. So I watched all those games last year and saw the lows of the lows, and that climb to the playoffs was one of the most remarkable things I've ever witnessed in sports. And it did have a similar feel in terms of these guys aren't supposed to be here. Oh, this has been fun. It's been 2 weeks, but now they play Baltimore. It's gonna go, "Oh my gosh, they swept Baltimore. Alright, well, it's gonna end." You kept saying, "It's gonna end, it's gonna change. This is a magical run," and it just didn't. It didn't until they faced the Guardians in the playoffs. And is it possible for the Reds to get there? Yeah, I will say, like, the main difference between the 2 teams is, and I don't want this to sound like a shot or anything, but, like, AJ Hinch is the best manager in baseball. I'm convinced of that. Watching him every single night, it is amazing how much of a clown he can make the other guy look in the opponent's dugout by just when to use the pitchers, how to use them, how to set up certain situations to get you to pull your lefty or whatnot, whatever it may be. I think he would, coach or manage circles around Tito at this point in time. But the Reds could get there. The Tigers sold off last year. They sold Jack Flaherty, they sold Carson Kelly, and next thing you know, they brought up these younger players. And when they did that and they started to do some strange things with their bullpen and rotation, um, it took off. So it's possible. I mean, why can't the Reds do it?
So let's go to AJ Hinch because I wanted to hear a little bit more about him because you've talked to me for a while about him. I've read some stuff and certainly seen some stuff online about him. This guy is Nick Kirby's dream manager. Is that
Yeah,
basically what he is?
literally, I've thought that at least once a week when I watch this guy. There's moments I say, I wish Nick was watching this game because why the heck is like a perfect example now. Andy Ibanez, 31-year-old waiver claim type guy, was batting third against a left-handed pitcher in the beginning of the year and hit a home run off of who other than Cole Reagans. Batting third against Cole Reagans. And guess what? Here's the other thing that you would like. Ibanez, who's a platoon-only player, started playing poorly. They demoted him. Like, they're not afraid to make the right moves instead of just saying, oh, yeah, this is what it should be. But Hinch, it's hard to explain without specific examples that make sense. But there are times I remember watching the game when he managed against Ron Washington this year in LA, and he made Ron Washington legitimately make mistakes, like leaving bringing in the lefty. Oh, well, we pinched hit to back guys, and now there's three righties in a row. We blew the game off, and you could just see it. And it's situations like that where he's so good in game and knowing when to bring the guy in from the bullpen or kind of when to do it that even someone like me who's watched baseball long enough to be able to predict things, he surprises me at times.
Well, this will be an interesting weekend for sure. We'll see how it plays out. Good thing about baseball is you can make all the right decisions, and I'm a big believer in this. And it doesn't matter, especially over 3-game samples. So hopefully, the Reds can get some of that this weekend. Let's go back to the Reds. Let's talk about Matt McLain for a second. Because you wrote, I thought, a really good article that I really enjoyed. It's been probably a couple weeks now back at this point, but you dove into Matt McLain, and I think your basic synopsis was Matt McLain isn't as good as he was in 2023, but he's not nearly as bad as he is in 2025.
Yeah. So really what happened was if you look at Matt McLain, the numbers this year have been awful. And I was really digging in thinking, okay, where do I find I'm watching at bats over and over and you can see some pressing and chasing on strike three that he never would have, what you feel like he would have in 2023. And I'm watching it more and I'm like, okay, like he's making good contact, he's doing this. And when you really start diving into the numbers, a lot of his batted ball data and a lot of metrics you would look at, for lack of a better term here, all were either the same or better, like surprisingly. So what does that tell you? There's two things. First off, it told me the 2023 season was a bit fool's gold because these metrics were still fine, but they weren't all-star level. And it also told me, okay, like does this mean he's about to take off and become better? Or does this mean that we were sold some, bag of onions back in 2023 and this thing's no good and it's just a small sample size, lucky sample and whatnot. And I think it is somewhere in the middle. I think he's a fine player, and I've been high on McLean. And kind of what I took away from that was he's still an important part of the future. And at that point in time, it was, I think he needs to be sent to AAA because he's an important part of the future. And if that's how you get him right, is to let him go down there and find some success, then that all I care about is getting the best version of Matt McLean on September 1st and hopefully October, right? So if that means 3 weeks in the minors, which sounds ridiculous, Jake Berger, he just did that. JJ Bleday. I mean, it's not uncommon to see proven players, even more proven than Matt McLean, go down to the minors for just a couple of weeks and see if they can't iron out their issues. But yeah, the Matt McLean dive was an interesting one to take.
Yeah, Matt McLain, you look back at his numbers and the 2023 season, for people who had followed McLain in the minor leagues, was shocking. I mean, the fact that he hit 290 in the big leagues, I was stunned because the year before in 103 games at AA, he hit 232. So it was wild that he hit that well. And I think you're right. It probably was a little bit of fool's gold, but I just think we had the wrong expectations of Matt McLain. I think Matt McLain is going to probably end up settling into a guy who's probably a lower average guy, which actually probably in today's baseball is almost an average guy. If it's 250, right? I mean, that sounds low, but it's not really all that low. But I think that's probably what he is. I think he's going to be a guy that gets on base And I think he's going to be a guy that has sneaky power. I mean, as bad as he's been this year, he still has 7 home runs in 59 games. So
Yeah,
I
it's
think
funny.
he's going to be a low average guy, gets on base, hits for power, and plays great defense. And that may not be as sexy to a lot of people, but that probably ends up being a 3-win player.
You know what's funny about that is I'm talking to Arm Layton of Just Baseball about McLean, and I'm texting him back and forth, and after like 40 minutes of silence, I thought the conversation was over. He's like, "I got it." He's like, "Comps are weird because everyone wants to comp the same position." He's like, "Would you be upset if Matt McLean's outcome is Tyler O'Neill?" And I thought, yeah, I could see that. Like he could be a Tyler O'Neill type. Now he doesn't have the highest in like the best outcome of O'Neill's power is probably not McLean, but like kind of a similar like lower average, plenty of power, a good athlete, can defend, like probably some up and down years just because of his play style. And I thought, yeah, you know what? I would take a Tyler O'Neill outcome from Matt McLean. I'd sign me up right now.
Well, Tyler O'Neill cost $50 million over 3 years, so that's a player that clearly is valued.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that comp. I like that comp a lot. All right, let's one more kind of run through the Reds here. Put on your, I guess, GM hat. What would you do right now to help the Reds here? You know, we're not going to talk trade deadline because I know me and you are both like, there's no point in really going all in at talking about the trade deadline on June 12th because one way or the other will probably feel completely different a month from today. So, but to get to the trade deadline, is there any moves that you would like to see the Reds make or any changes to kind of the personnel to give this team a better chance? Deep South Commodities is a proud supporter of Chatterbox Reds and our Deep Drive of the Day, and DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Thanks as always to our friends at DSC. The 90-Day Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a place to get support for anything related to mental health. Whether it's an immediate crisis, simply wanting to find out how to connect with care, or anything in between, it's a 100% confidential, secure, and anonymous way to reach out for help when you don't know where else to turn. To connect, call or text 988 or visit mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay not to be okay.
I mean, I would be more than happy to replace like Garrett Hampson. It's easy just to say that in a vacuum and not like give the, well, here's who I want to replace him with, and we could talk about that all day long. But I'm sure that there's players out there, especially as you get closer to the deadline, if you can kind of be smart enough to predict who's buying, who's not, who could be a DFA, or who could kind of be getting pushed out, can we just go out and acquire them now to see if we can't fit them in before they get in a position where they're acquiring somebody, if that makes sense. Um, I really don't have like a name of this is who I want. Besides, of course, like Chase Burns, who did not have the best start to his AAA debut and whatnot. But to me, it's really what direction. Like I just want to know the direction. I don't want to get a month from now and we're in the same spot. Do we trade Nick Martinez or not? Like, do we need to trade, X, Y, and Z or go after this big bad or whatever it may be? I just want to have a clear direction of this team needs to buy or this team needs to sell.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. I really hope it's all right, this team just gets red hot and it's crystal clear that this is a season the Reds are going for it. And by going for it, I'm not meaning blow up the farm system for one player, but a clear move of what you need to do with the deadline is find opportunities to improve the team through smart moves. But I don't want to be 3 games back and be a situation where you should have sold and you shouldn't. All right, let's talk about the Tigers. Interesting kind of series this weekend. The Reds catching obviously a massive break, not having to face Scooble, but probably just not as big of a break, but a big break as well, and not facing Casey Mize. So the Reds have caught several of these breaks, I'll be honest, this year, where they have missed some really, really good starting pitchers. But the Tigers manage their pitching staff, as you mentioned, very well. So the Reds will still see their dose, I think, of good pitching. So Friday, we got Nick Martinez against TBD. We'll get to that in a second. Saturday, we got Brady Singer against Jack Flaherty. And then Sunday, Wade Miley against Sawyer Gibson Long. Let's start with Friday. You think Kiter Montero probably is the bulk guy. Maybe they go with an opener, especially when you look at the Reds' stubbornness at the top of the order. I would assume a smart manager would try to run a lefty out there against the top of that Reds order any chance they get.
Yeah, and they just called up Matt Gage, who's a older AAA lefty. They just called him up today with Jackson Jobe going on the IL. So I was kind of like, huh, there it is, right? Like, here's the guy no one has seen, and Hinch is going to throw him out there. But he could also, like, this is the exact thing. You and I are tracking the same way. But then Hinch throws out Brant Herter, and you're like, what? He just threw us off his scent. That's all he's doing. But if it is Brant Herter, Brant, Brant Herter, it's he is a really difficult out. He is funky. He has a slider and a sinker, and he's just a really effective pitcher who came up after the deadline last year and has just been awesome. And they have done a piggyback with him where he goes a couple innings, and then it was Sawyer Gibson Long who piggybacked off of him earlier this week. So they have do what they coined pitching chaos last year, where nobody knows who's starting, how long they're going. Sometimes they go one inning, sometimes they go three, sometimes they use five pitchers, sometimes they use two. So it's really unpredictable and it's very difficult to play against. It's just not sustainable over a long period of time. But they may be kind of trending in that direction right now.
Well, they have a little bit more leeway than they have last year because I didn't mention it. The Tigers are 45-25, have the best record in the American League, if you didn't know. So they have a little bit more less sense of urgency here in June than they probably have had over the last
Been
year.
since 2013, since they were the last time they were 20 games over 500 was 2013.
Wow.
Miguel Cabrera's prime years, like way back then. I was a sophomore in college.
Wow. All right, Jack Flaherty on Saturday, a guy that's been was with Detroit, got shipped out of the deadline last year, came back. A good pitcher, I guess, at this point in his career, but
Yeah.
a guy that maybe the Reds have an opportunity to have a good game against.
I think the deal with Flaherty, when he came over last year to Detroit, Chris Federer, Detroit's um, pitching coach, who's really well renowned, fixed him. I mean, he no longer was walking guys, and he just became very good last year. And he's returned this year, and it's been pretty solid. He's kind of had a bad stretch in the beginning of May, but man, he's on a heater right now. He has gone. Here's the past three outings: 6 innings, 2 hits, no runs; 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 run; 6 innings, 2 hits, no runs; 8 strikeouts, 4 strikeouts, 9 strikeouts. He's on a very good heater right now, and he's looking great. He's got a knuckle curveball that I think will give the Reds all kinds of fits, and it's going to be annoying because he'll follow that up with a fastball. And he's one of those pitchers, like, just watching him is really like pleasing. Like, you will enjoy watching him pitch just because of how it looks. Like, the aesthetic of it's nice. But he's going to be probably the toughest of the three this weekend.
Yeah, I pulled up the numbers and I instantly regret what I said. I remember that early stretch in May, and yeah, those numbers
Like,
recently are
he
pretty
can
good.
be that way. There's times where he looks awful, and that's kind of what happened in his Cardinal years. In his Baltimore year, was he would look really good, then really bad for a stretch. And since he's worked with Federer in Detroit, it's his bad stretches are shorter and they're more controlled. So you're not getting these like blow up outings where he's walking six batters anymore.
All right, and then in the finale, the Reds are going to have Wade Miley, the recent. I'm not going to go there. You can check online for Google Wade Miley and see what's going on there against Sawyer Gibson Long. Tell me about Sawyer Gibson Long here in a second, but first, is this a game where Hinch could throw a lefty opener for him?
There's going to be something funky there because Sawyer Gibson Long has, I think he's pitched 8 innings this year, and he Before that, he missed over 600 days due to elbow injury. He is gross. I mean, I know it sounds like I'm just hyping all these guys up, but the pitching lab that they've developed in Detroit just is churning out left and right. And Gibson Long has a changeup that is one of the best. Like, it's just gross. And he was a little bit rusty his first outing, but you see the swing and miss stuff, which worries me about the Reds. But I just don't know how long he's going to last. Is he going to be 3 innings, 4 innings? Are they going to do the opener? Um, I wouldn't go too much off of the projected starters because that can change, and it has changed when he was a projected starter his last outing. So he's another guy who is a good pitcher, and you'll notice it from watching him. You'll say, "Who the heck is a 27-year-old Sawyer Gibson Long? Who is this guy?" And he'll strike out 6 batters, and you'll say, "Okay, that guy's pretty gross."
Yeah, I'll never forget Tyler Alexander in 2020. Was that 8 in a row?
Yeah. Tyler Alexander's been DFA'd like 4 different teams since then, but yes, Tyler Alexander.
Fun times. All right, this Tigers lineup, a platoon heavy lineup with some really good players. Let's start off with the two bashers, Kerry Bonds Carpenter and Riley Green. That's the part of the lineup that the Reds have to obviously be careful of. Two lefty thumpers.
Yeah, Spencer Torkelson was awful last year, spent a huge chunk in Toledo, and no one expected him to even make the roster necessarily. It was going to be a challenge, and now he looks great. He went back to his old batting stance he used at Arizona State, and he's just launching balls, killing balls. He's just a scary guy to have to face, and Riley Green is a super good player, like just all around player. Like, he's a better defender than you'd imagine. He's not fast at all. He has a very awkward run. You'll notice that immediately. He's a very strange gait to him. Um, but he hits baseballs everywhere, and it's pretty impressive to watch. Those are the kind of the two big names. The one name that I think is going to become a household name is Dylan Dingler, their second-year catcher. Barely played last year. A guy who I've been high on now for like it seems like 5 years, and it's just been a slow trickle through the minors with him. Already rating as one of the best defensive catchers in the game. Cannon of an arm, great framer, and now he's hitting extremely well. He hit a home run tonight actually, and that's kind of a name if you want to watch somebody who you may not know on this team. That's the name to watch.
All right. Well, certainly a talented lineup, and it'll be a tough matchup. Javier Baez, gotta ask you about him. I think he's cooled off a little bit of late.
Yeah,
Hasn't been exactly an everyday player, so it looks like he's still getting in there quite a
he is.
bit. But he's kind of had a
He's
wild Detroit career.
It has been such a strange career, but what I will say about Javi Bayas, and granted, I hated him with the Cubs, I love that guy. Seriously, he comes to the ballpark every freaking day and tries so hard, even when he's horrible. He is out there hustling. His defense is so freaking pretty. This year, Parker Meadows, the center fielder, got injured. They put Javi Bayas in center. He's never played there before. And I'm not exaggerating. He was so good at in center that I thought that they may just have to keep him out there. Like, he is an incredible, just naturally gifted fielder. No matter where you put him, they played him at third too. But yeah, he had like a 3 or 4 week stretch where he was so hot, and I wrote that article as fast as I could because I knew it was not going to last. And he's definitely cooled off. But um, weird thing about Javi is he might hit 170 on the year, but runners in scoring position, he's a menace every single season. He's like 330 with runners in scoring position, even when his overall average is like 178.
It's funny that you mentioned that about Baez because I'm sure people just see the highlights on Twitter or the low lights on Twitter of him
Yeah.
swinging at breaking balls that bounce in front of the plate, and you get the impression that he's lazy, but he's really anything but that.
It's the complete opposite. And the whole like swing and miss with him, If you just had to guess off the top of your head what his strikeout percentage is, what would you guess? Just Javi Bias.
I would think he's over 30. I mean, by what the low lights I see,
He hasn't
30%.
been over. He has not been over 25% since 2021.
Wow.
23%
Wow.
every
That
year.
is wild. Perspective is
Doesn't
everything.
walk.
Yeah. Yeah. Strikeout rates are very relative because I'd rather have a 30% strikeout rate of a guy that walks 10% of the time than a 20% strikeout rate of a guy that walks 3% of the time. So,
Yeah, Javi has walked exactly 4.4% each of the last 3 seasons. Very consistent player.
all right. The Tigers, I saw this. I know they haven't updated in a while, but the Tigers had the #1 farm system in
Yeah.
Major League Baseball. So this isn't just a team that is, a cute. I guess Detroit's a mid-market team. I guess is what you'd call them. They're not a cute
They're
team that's just playing well right now. They are set up very well for the future. So Clay, I want to end this on this sort of question to you because it's probably no one better qualified than you to answer this. What are the lessons that the Cincinnati Reds organization could learn from the Detroit Tigers?
Tigers. Scott Harris took over a couple years back. He came over from San Francisco. Young guy, really smart, and he started to implement a few different things and kind of some cliches that you're like, okay, whatever. One was like own the strike zone. And that is literally something that is like cemented into the heads of these kids from single A all the way up. And if you watch, like you put on the West Michigan game and you're like, this team's incredible. Why? Because they don't chase at all. They just don't. Max Clark, one of the best prospects in baseball, will draw walks at a 15% clip and he doesn't strike out either. There's just so much balls being put in play constantly. um, I think that they have done a really good job. They're not afraid to take high school players early in the draft, and they've done it. And the other thing that they've done is they load up on left-handed hitters to the point that it's almost like it feels irresponsible. Like it feels like if I was playing MLB The Show, I got to trade these guys. There's too many lefties. And then they just use their bench for righties. So they have all because the primary position of a pitcher is a right-handed pitcher. So they have a ton of lefties. All of their top prospects are lefty hitters, really. So it's a unique position. They're not afraid. They do a ton of things you'd see with the Rays, like we're gonna get this guy, these pitchers who are from an independent league or a random college, or this guy's 27, he's a knuckleballer. Let's put him in single A and work on this and this. And they're pretty experimental, is what I would say. And right now, it's just working for them. I mean, the amount of development, and it's more than just, oh, this guy's hitting on this. Ryan Garco, if you remember that name,
Yeah.
he's their player development guy now, and since he started working there, I mean, it's amazing. They had nothing, and their prospects have been so bad. He started a few years back with Harris, and even like players who were in the system before and after, like they improved. I don't know what they've got in the water down there, but they're doing it right, and they deserve praise. I mean, the way that they've turned around an organization that was similar to the Reds, in which here's the pop-up 2010 season or whatever where we feel pretty good, but the past 5, 7 years have been just crap. Very similar boat, and they've been able to turn it around relatively quickly too. So maybe that's the lesson to Cincinnati Reds fans is, it is possible for something to turn around quickly. They turned it around from the deadline all the way to riding it to now the best, not I don't know if I said best team in baseball, but most wins in baseball, right? So
Well, good info there, Clay. Appreciate it. Yeah, hopefully our Cincinnati Reds can get to that point as well. Because shout out to the Tigers fans, they had to take some lumps for a long time to get to this point, but I'm sure they'll tell you that hey, when you get there, it's a pretty fun ride.
yeah, yeah. It is interesting watching both of these teams each night and seeing how they compare. And Like I said, the biggest thing that I really notice is managers and base running. The Tigers are first to third, kind of like what we saw with the Reds more last year, and kind of aggressive. And the Reds are just making these boneheaded mistakes, and you just don't see that. I just don't see that when I watch the Tigers game. I know it sounds like I'm like glazing the Tigers over here, but it's just the truth. They don't make these boneheaded mistakes that I see the Reds make, and the way that they're managed is, um, I guess I'll just say better. It's just better than what I've seen from the Reds this year.
They're just getting a lot more. They're squeezing a lot more out of the lemon than the
Yeah,
Reds are.
they are. And you look at guys like Zach McKinstry, a waiver wire claim, and you look down this roster and you're like, who are these guys? Why are they all doing well? Because they're being put in positions to do well. They're being moved up and down the lineup, pinch hit. Kerry Carpenter is one of their best players. He won't even play until the sixth inning, seventh inning, and they're using him as a pinch hitter because that's where they find him most valuable, is to bring him in late in the game in the biggest moment instead of having him start against a lefty, even though he might be able to hit a lefty. They'd rather have that tool in their toolkit to pull off the bench and put pressure on the other team's bullpen or force them to bring a lefty in and burn their lefty. It's another thing. Last thing, I know we're going a little over here, that I found interesting when I listened to an AJ Hinch interview was he was talking about finding ways to make teams burn pitchers in game one of a series. And not only that, but when he thinks about bullpen decisions in games one, two, and three, he thinks about it in terms of how many times has this guy faced these people in this series. So Tony Santillan comes in game one, he may not use him in game two or three just because he's already seen, unless he can find the part of the batting order that has not seen him yet. So I mean, that's the type of thinking that's going on. Is Santillan saw one, two, and three of the batting order on Friday? If it's 5, 6, 7 on Sunday, I'll throw him then, but I'm not throwing him again if he's getting up to 1, 2, 3s.
I got one last question for you then. That's fascinating. Have you
I can
heard like
tell
this?
you're into AJ Hinch, man.
I know. I this is the AJ Hinch podcast at this point. Glazing AJ Hinch. Does he have you heard anything about, like, does he have like a team of people that help him like in game? I'm assuming if you're doing this, like his bench coaches, he's got to have other people that are buying into this. Are people calling down on the phone to also give this? This has to be an organizational alignment to be successful in this kind of thing, right?
It is. It is. But it's funny because you say like Gabe Alvarez was the AA manager. He's now their AAA manager as of this year. That dude was incredible. I mean, he was winning championships in AA and what, I mean, he's great. And he has the same type of just insane baseball mind. When you listen to that guy interview, it's like, wait, this sounds a lot like AJ. Like they've just found the right fits and they've made the right hires and kept them around. And I think it means a lot. And you hear, like, Just Baseball did an interview with Max Clark, and you hear the way he talks about baseball for a 19-year-old kid and his perspective and knowing how he attacks at bats, and just hearing him talk about how he reads a pitcher in this pitch, and I knew he had this, and this guy, he threw this 2 weeks ago, but then he threw it to me for the first time since then. Like, the knowledge that they have, they are going through some type of baseball academy there. I mean, it's truly unbelievable how smart these people are for how inexperienced these prospects are. So they've done a great job. And I think AJ is just a brilliant baseball mind and a really fascinating person who just knows the game. Former catcher. You know how those former catchers are.
There we go. Let's get Tucker Barnhart. He can manage it.
Jason LaRue.
There you go. There you go. Devin Mesoraco. He's a pit. He's getting on the track. All right, Clay.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, my friend. Everyone, be sure to check out all of Clay's work over at Just Baseball. I've said it a million times, but Just Baseball is by far the best national baseball coverage out there. I just recently drove down from Cleveland to Cincinnati, and I think I listened to about 4 Just Baseball podcasts during my trip because they're the best. So check out all their work. Clay, we'll talk again soon, my friend.
All righty. Have a good one.